1 exercise. No equipment. 30 days. And the body adapts in ways that took researchers decades to fully understand, starting on day 1. Don't forget to subscribe, comment and share for others to benefit. Push-ups have existed in some form across virtually every physical training tradition in human history. Military organizations worldwide have used them as a foundational fitness assessment for generations. Athletes, martial artists, and laborers have built formidable upper body strength through variations of this single movement across cultures and centuries. And yet the push-up is routinely dismissed, treated as something you graduate from once you have access to a gym, or something you do when you have nothing better available. This dismissal reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of what the movement actually demands from the body and what happens physiologically when it is performed with genuine consistency and technical integrity every day for 30 days. The adaptations that occur during this period are not limited to the chest, shoulders, and triceps. They extend into the nervous system, the connective tissue, the core musculature, the hormonal environment, and the psychological relationship a person has with daily physical discipline. And they begin on day 1, before a single visible change has occurred. What happens in the first week? The first 7 days of daily push-ups produce changes that are almost entirely invisible but are among the most important of the entire 30-day process. On the first day, the movement is governed by whatever neuromuscular patterns currently exist for that motion. For most people who have not been training push-ups consistently, those patterns are incomplete. The nervous system has not optimized motor unit recruitment for this specific movement under load. Stabilizing muscles, the serratus anterior, the rotator cuff, the deep core, have not been primed to activate in the precise coordination the movement requires. The result is a push-up that works harder than it needs to, expends more neural energy than an efficient version would, and leaves the supporting structures underengaged. By day 3, the nervous system has already begun adapting. Motor unit recruitment becomes more precise. The serratus anterior, the muscle that anchors the shoulder blade to the ribcage during pressing movements, begins activating earlier and more completely. The core brace that should exist throughout every repetition starts becoming automatic rather than conscious. None of this is visible. But the movement begins to feel different, more controlled, more connected, more like one integrated action rather than a collection of independent efforts. Muscle soreness peaks somewhere between days 2 and 4 for most people, as the body responds to a stimulus it has not recently encountered. This soreness is not damage in the destructive sense, it is the inflammatory phase of a repair process that, when completed, leaves the tissue slightly more capable than it was before. Understanding this prevents the most common early mistake, stopping because it hurts, before the adaptation has had time to express itself. By day 7, the movement has already changed in quality even though it has not yet changed in appearance. That invisible progress is the foundation on which everything that follows is built. What shifts in days 8 through 20? The second phase of a daily push-up practice is where the structural adaptations begin making themselves apparent, and where the biology of connective tissue becomes critically relevant. Muscle tissue responds to training stimulus relatively quickly. Protein synthesis elevates within hours of a challenging session, and measurable hypertrophic changes can begin occurring within 2 weeks of consistent training in untrained individuals. Connective tissue, the tendons, ligaments, and fascial structures that support and transmit the forces generated by muscle, adapts significantly more slowly. It has lower metabolic activity, reduced blood supply, and repair rates that operate on a longer timescale than the muscles they serve. Daily push-ups, when the volume is appropriate and the technique is sound, produce a graduated loading stimulus for the tendons of the chest, shoulder, and tricep complex, the same structures that become compromised in people who train with too much intensity too quickly. Consistent, daily mechanical loading at manageable intensities is actually the optimal stimulus for connective tissue health, because it drives collagen synthesis and fiber reorganization without exceeding the tissue's current repair capacity. By the second week, people who have maintained technical precision notice something specific. The wrists, elbows, and shoulder joints feel more stable and more capable than they did at the start. This is not imagined. It is the result of connective tissue remodeling, the body's continuous process of replacing and reorganizing structural proteins in response to the demands placed on them. The joints are becoming more resilient, not more worn, because the loading is appropriate and the stimulus is consistent. Visible changes in upper body shape begin emerging for many people in this window. A slight but real increase in shoulder breadth, a more defined chest line, a visible development in the lateral tricep. These early changes are partly hypertrophic and partly a reduction in the subcutaneous puffiness that often accompanies inflammation, as the body's inflammatory regulatory systems become better calibrated through consistent movement. The core and postural adaptation nobody mentions. Here is the adaptation that most people who do a 30-day push-up challenge never identify as coming from the push-ups, because it shows up not in the arms or chest, but in how they carry themselves through the rest of the day. A correctly performed push-up is a full-body tension exercise. The glutes are contracted. The quads are engaged. The abdominals are braced to maintain a rigid midline. The scapulae are positioned through active serratus anterior engagement. Every repetition, performed with this full body integrity, is simultaneously training the deep core stabilizers and the scapular control muscles that govern posture during every other waking activity. By the third week of daily push-ups performed with genuine technical discipline, most people notice that they are standing taller without thinking about it. The serratus anterior, which is chronically underdeveloped in most people who have not specifically trained pressing movements, is one of the primary muscles responsible for keeping the shoulder blade flat against the ribcage during arm movement. When it is weak, the shoulder blade wings outward, the rotator cuff is placed in a mechanically disadvantaged position, and the shoulder joint becomes more vulnerable to impingement and strain. Daily push-ups, done correctly, train this muscle relentlessly, and the downstream effect on shoulder health, posture, and the quality of every other upper body movement is significant. What the final 10 days produce. By days 20 through 30, the adaptation has compounded across every system simultaneously: neurological, muscular, connective, and postural, and the cumulative effect is substantially greater than the sum of its parts. Strength has increased measurably. Someone who began the 30 days completing 10 push-ups to technical failure will typically be able to perform 15 to 25 by day 30, depending on their starting point, their body weight, and the consistency of their effort and nutrition. This strength gain reflects both the neurological improvements from the first week and the genuine hypertrophic development that has accumulated across the full 30 days. But something else has developed that is harder to quantify and arguably more valuable: the habit architecture of daily physical discipline. There is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when someone completes a physical practice every single day without exception for 30 days. The decision to train stops being a daily negotiation. It becomes a default, something the day feels incomplete without, rather than something that requires motivation to initiate. The nervous system begins anticipating the daily movement stimulus, and the absence of it produces a mild but genuine discomfort that drives return to the practice. 30 days. Start today. Not tomorrow, not Monday. Today.